come. So we were already talking about the Syrian war and the refugee influx, in quotation marks, to Europe from the Syria, but meanwhile we've experienced a lot of events. We do talk about migration, we will talk about migration, the actors change, the topic stays the same. So it was the Syrian war, then we've been talking about the tragedy in Afghanistan for decades. Then we had the economic crisis in Venezuela and the Latin American migration. Today we are talking about the Ukrainians. Who knows what's going to happen in the next 6 months? Yes, the agenda is very dynamic and we do see different names and actors, but we do see that what is prevalent and stable is we do have tragedies going on, and the drivers of migration, either for regular or irregular, will stay, but I think it's important to remember that, especially with this event, things and the contemporary agenda points might change, but what people endure does not. So today we would like to remind us again what has been going with the Afghanistan and also the Afghan refugees in Europe. So we have a very dense program going to start with a keynote speech, and then we will have a short Q&A, then we will have our first panel, and then a break, and then we will have the second panel. Of course, we will also have live updates, so we will listen to the real people. We will have online connections, and we will have a small play to really show you what's going on that is not reflected on media, but on the real life in Afghanistan for women. And we will end up with a very nice iftar and dinner, which is based on Afghan culinary delicacies. So let me please welcome you, Mr. Alexander Sorel, who is a senior advisor to the Executive Director of the European Union Asylum Agency. He particularly coordinates the EUAA response to Afghanistan crisis in the external dimension. So following up his speech, I'll give floor to you for your Q&A. So please welcome Mr. Alexander Sorel.
Thanks for the invitation. It's always good to see that since my days at university, which is like decades ago, it hasn't changed much, the interior. And the weather in Brussels today is better than in Malta, so I'm happy to be here. I'm always inspired, what's inspiring to me, to meet with academics and civil society, and in particular the Diaspora organization, and to come together to share insights, stimulate discussions, and explore new avenues for cooperation. I will talk about, of course, Afghanistan, but I will first say something about the EU. I'm not the EU, I'm an agency, I'm independent, not a commission, thank God. But I will say something, and then I say something about what we do as an agency, and then I go into the numbers, and then to we're not calling it a project, but the attention that we were asked to give to the situation in Afghanistan after the fall of Kabul. Indeed, over the last few weeks, the attention of the EU and member states has been focused to the war of Russia against Ukraine. It's easy to understand, the war is around the corner, the doorstep, and as a result we see the highest, the biggest refugee influx since World War II. So, like I said, I don't speak for the European Commission or the EU, but from our perspective as the EU Agency for Asylum, the EU and member states and us and other agencies as well, we are acutely aware of the multifaceted crisis in Afghanistan and continue to work to address this, even though you might not read it in the newspapers and see it in the headlines, at least not for a moment. On a personal note, I've been always saying, I've been doing this project since August last year, and we all know the deteriorating situation of winter, and soon it will be spring, and things might change, and then it will be again on the top of the political agenda. I'm sure about that. I will give a few examples of EU's commitment to the cause. On the 24th of March, the European Commission chaired a meeting of the core group of the solution strategy for Afghan refugees support platform. It's linked to the Global Compact, that's UNHCR, so that's refugees, and it's meant to advance the regional approach to solutions for Afghan refugees and to promote burden and responsibility sharing. On the 5th of April, the EU Special Envoy for Afghanistan, Thomas Nicolason, reaffirmed, and I quote, the Union's strong commitment to the Afghan people and the need to continue to address the humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan. On the same day, at the European Parliament, the High Representative Vice President Sorel recognized that all Afghans are suffering due to systematic violations of human rights and called for an immediate reversal of the ban on education for those above the grade 6. And these are not words. The EU is always good in words, but they're also good in money. And on the 1st of April at the pledging conference, 525 million euros was announced from the EU and its member states in all kinds of humanitarian support, medical care, supplies, nutrition, shelter, protection, and educational projects. I won't go into much detail of the EU. I will focus on my agency, the European Union Agency for Asylum. But allow me first, before I go into the Afghan part, to give you a quick overview of the agency and its mandate, because I think that places it in the right perspective. We are an independent agency tasked with providing operational and technical support on asylum and reception matters to EU member states and to assist them at the implementation of the Common European Asylum System, the CEAS. Common European Asylum System, which is the conglomerate of all the legislation which has been adopted since 2000, and now there are all kinds of new proposals. That's the Common European Asylum System. Our agency was established in 2010 as the European Asylum Support Office. It sounds a bit weak, but it was still already an agency, but we didn't want to call it an agency, so it was a support office. And that's what we do. Support is our mission, is the mission statement we have, and actually with the new EUAA we kept that statement because it is what we do, support. Earlier this year, in January, finally, after long delays, our new regulation, the EUAA, came into force, transforming us into the EUAA, so into the EUAA, with a much broader mandate. In 2010, it was a small agency, and it grew especially in the crisis, previous big crisis, 2015, 2016, and to sort of show what that means, that it started with 30 people in 2010 with a budget of 10 million, and at the moment we have a budget of 171 million and 505 staff in HQ, in headquarters. To go into what we do a bit more specifically, at the core we are a center of expertise on asylum and reception. And I mention these two because that means that we're not dealing with return, for instance, or with, well, you can name asylum and reception are the subjects of our mandate, and we're actually quite strong in keeping that. For instance, a little sidestep. We couldn't help member states in their support under the temporary protection directive for the outflows of Ukraine. So we had to get a special mandate which was given to the minister by the ministers, and that's why we could do something before that we couldn't do it. So center of expertise is important. So we developed guidances, recommendations, practical tools, operational standards, indicators, and a very extensive training curriculum to help the member states implement the common European asylum system. We recorded since 2012, I think, yes, 60,000 participations in our training activities, and it's quite important because training is like the base of all the people who are working in education and asylum claims. They have to have a good training, and it needs to be something which is not different in Germany than in France, but ideally from us, and then it means that it's at the EU level. We are very dedicated in supporting member states in identification, assessment, and referral of applicants with special procedural and reception needs, such as unaccompanied minors, pictures of THV, human beings, and LGBTQI applicants. All of this helps member states to implement the current legislative framework of the SEAS in a correct manner and to ensure that it is done in a fair and expedient way. All this contributes to something which is very important because, of course, all the member states started as individual member states and had all kinds of different laws and administrative, procedures. So what we work on, and it's the training and the guidance and all the things we do, is to try to get more convergence in the application of the European asylum system. The aim is having different member states apply the legislation in the same way so that similar cases are treated similarly. And we all know that's not yet the case. But it is a goal which we will pursue for a long time still, I think. We also, and that's new from the crisis of 2015 to 2016, we also deliver significant operational support on the ground to member states, especially if they are in a situation of pressure or that, maybe their way of implementing is not the most perfect way. Let's be nice. At the moment we are operational in 9 member states. When I started 5 years ago, I think we were active in 2, Italy and Greece, obviously, the Cyprus, Malta, Spain, so that was the whole south, sort of. But the current executive director, my boss, Nina Gregori, she is very much about that the agency is not for the south, or it's for all member states. So Belgium was the first member state outside the Mediterranean to ask for support in the reception. The Federation has a problem, we all can read it in the newspapers, and that sort of broke the spell of EASO is only helping the south, which is what it was for whatever reasons, but it's now. So the Netherlands asked for help, where I come from, and under the temporary protection work that now is rolled out because of the decisions by the Council, or proposal of the Commission. We started working in Romania, we started working in soon in the Czech Republic. I forget that, of course, when the I would say the instrumentalization of migration by Belarus towards the Baltics, we started working in the Baltics as well. And it can be anything. It can be information provision to people that arrive. So in some countries we support, we don't run. We support the management of reception centers to be sure that the reception centers are run on the basis of EU standards, so that there's a certain level of standards that should be reached by all member states, in the case everywhere. We also draft decisions. We don't take decisions. We will never take decisions because the decision of allowing the entry or the non-entry, you can stay or you may have to leave, is a sovereignty of the state. And even if you want to, there's another member states that say, no way, that's ours. And that's logical. But we help them, and we helped, especially the best example is Greece. Everybody knows that Greece was quite a drama for a long time. We helped them to get away with the backlogs in the first instance. We're now in the second instance. Same for Cyprus, same for Italy. Those are quite big operations. There's hundreds of people that work there. So 9 member states, 2 coming. So out the 500 and it's a weird number, 505, something like that. 500 people in Malta. Apart from those, we also have 900 experts deployed in the operations at the moment, plus 400 interpreters. So it's quite a significant amount of people. We always make a joke that it's very interesting that Frontex, our big blood system, gets 10,000 border guards. But in the end, what can they do? They have to hand them over to us because they can't do pushbacks, obviously. So they can't do registration, obviously. So it's a bit of out of balance. It's more a joke than anything, but it's also it shows the difference between us and them, and that is sometimes not unimportant. Apart from the operations, we do regular data analysis, early warning and preparedness, and as I said, we have a new mandate, and we got quite some significant changes. The member states have to give us, in a situation of disproportionate pressure, so that's, for instance, that was the situation in Lithuania when the people from Belarus pushed over the border. We have an assigned reserve group of 500 member state experts that they have to deliver to us in 7 days. So then we can, that's not that unfortunately. It's not working yet, but it will work in the second half of this year. We get a fundamental rights officer. We will prepare the fundamental rights. It was not in the original proposal of the Commission. It was written into the proposal by the Parliament, and we actually, Parliament did it to us as well because it was in Frontex. I think we are much less worried or, a bit anxious because what we do is human rights. We deal with asylum, which is human rights. So we are actually quite happy that we get a fundamental rights officer. We also get liaison officers in member states, so each member state gets a liaison officer or a group of member states, and we can put liaison officers in third countries. It's a May clause for the lowest umbrellas. The member states liaison officers is shall clause. And then one of the most important and most sensitive new feature is the monitoring. It was so sensitive that in order to get it through the council, and Parliament in the end agreed to that. The existing mechanism hasn't been changed, but it's cut in two parts. It means that the first part will start at the end of 2023, so we have a mechanism and we have a plan, and we can start monitoring and share findings, but there's not yet the harder part of when the member state doesn't accept the recommendations. That will only enter into force if the current Dublin regulation is replaced by the proposal of the Commission. Some people say that will not happen, but it never happen. But it's important because with the monitoring, and it's a long-term convergence / harmonization instrument, we can then help member states to be much more preventive in when we see, because we have all the information, where the gaps are, where they might need to do something before it goes wrong and there's a big crisis or even worse. One of the things that is a bit, and it's very EU, so they gave us new tasks, but they didn't give us new money or new people. So we're still sort of talking with the Commission to get it and through Parliament, because they're the budgetary authorities. Okay, this was agency. And now we'll talk about the asylum situation for Afghan applicants. I will share some data on displacement from Afghanistan on asylum situation of Afghan applicants in the EU. And just, I will mention some statistics that they will be published in our flagship Asylum Report 2022, which will be published in June. And there's a big event somewhere in Brussels, I don't know exactly where. It's the flagship with all the information of all the policies and the special parts. It's really interesting. Of course, in 2021, more dramatic things happened in Afghanistan, including of course the takeover by Taliban. Caused large-scale suffering and displacement both within the country and in the neighboring region. Added to what was already one of the largest protracted refugee situations in the world. In December 2021, an estimated 3.4 million people were internally displaced in Afghanistan, and neighboring countries, especially Iran and Pakistan, hosted more than 2 million registered refugees from Afghanistan, and a further 4 million Afghans of varying status, including undocumented, no papers people. Protection needs clearly intensified in 2021. In addition, risks increased, especially for particular groups, including human rights activists, former employees, or persons who have been incorporated with Western actors, journalists, and specific minority groups. There were evident, this increase was evident also in the EU, as applications for international protection from Afghans doubled from 2020 to 2021. In 2021, there were 102,000 applications in EU Plus. I mean, if I say EU Plus, it's with jargon. It's the EU Plus the Schengen Associated States, because they are linked to us, because they are applying the Dublin regulation. So it's Switzerland, Norway, and Iceland. Liechtenstein, Iceland is not yet closed. So 102,000 applications. Considering the entirety of 2021, they were the second largest applicants group after Syrians. However, they have been consistently the largest group of applicants on a monthly basis since August 2021. The peak, linked of course to the evacuations, was in September 2021, where more than 18,000 Afghan citizens applied for international protection. In January 2022, the number of applications went down to 8,500, a decline since the second month, and to less than half of the peak I just mentioned. However, the level in 2022 was still over twice as high as that in January 2021, when Afghans lodged less than 4,000 applications. The vast majority of Afghan applications in January 2022, you might say that it's April, but we know a lot of data, on a weekly basis, but some things, they need to be correct. So there's a leap of a few months. So the vast majority were lodged for the first time, whereas 11% were repeated applications. This is in line, except in 2 months, where in September and November, where the repeated applications were 20% of all Afghan applications. Applications lodged continue to exceed first instance decisions in January, with roughly 3 decisions issued for every 5 applications lodged. Consequently, the Afghan caseload at first instance increased for the 8th consecutive month, exceeding 69,700 cases in UNHCR. Afghans are currently the applications with the biggest caseload of pending cases. As for the responses of EU plus countries to protection needs, they were not always uniform, especially with regard to the evacuated Afghans. Some were put under resettlement, others under fast-track procedures, or regular assignment procedure, or residence permits outside the assignment, or humanitarian protection. There were all kinds of different ways, which was also linked to the fact that it needed to be done there and then, and not like later. Due to the volatility in Afghanistan itself and the difficulty of accessing up-to-date country of origin information, country of origin information, for those who don't know it, that's sort of information about the country which is used by people who take a decision they need to know, happy to say that from Afghanistan, you have to have very good information on the situation, and it has obvious links to protection and safety. Because of this difficulty, many EU plus countries suspended the processing of applications by Afghans at both first and second instance. With the exception, and that's only good, of cases where protection needs were clearly evident. This resulted in record high recognition rates at the EU plus level in October and November, of course. If you don't take decisions, but you only take decisions on the ones who get protection, the recognition rate, so it's the rate of people who get status, refugee or social protection, goes up. It was above 90%. However, when the suspension was waived by more and more member states, the recognition rate began to decline down to 70% in December and 66% in January. Still, recognition rates for Afghan applicants are considerably higher than the average EU plus recognition rate for all applications, which is 38%, so it is half, or almost half.
Could you wrap up? You don't mind?
But then you missed the most important thing.
No, please go ahead, just the three that are amazing.
I've got 20 minutes, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. We're missing a lot.
video sign.
No, I felt you were going to do something like that. It looked like you were going to do it. Okay, so we go to EUAA and Afghanistan. We were not active in Afghanistan. We were active, of course, vast majority in the EU, and we had we did some capacity in what we call the external measures outside the EU, Western Balkan, Turkey, and the Middle East and North Africa region. Afghanistan was not our part. In 31st of August last year, there was a special JCA Council who gave us the mandate to do work, to start doing something in Afghanistan. And we started to roll out what we call the whole of route approach. I will make it shorter. Whole of route from the end to the beginning, so from member states back to Afghanistan. We did a lot of things about Afghans, country of origin, guidance, all kinds of special meetings on special subjects, on exclusion, inclusion for Afghans. So that was the work in the EU. We did more on Afghans, US, Iraq, and Turkey, and then there was the region around Afghanistan. There's a lot of organizations active here. We do a lot of good work and spend a lot of money, and we're not going to duplicate that. So we said, okay, we want to know who does what where within the field of asylum and reception, which is our mandate, to make sure that we don't duplicate it. I won't say anything on the platform. You can ask questions here. So to have an evidence-based have an evidence base of what we shouldn't do or what we should do. We went to all the international organizations and all the responsible DGs in Brussels, UNHCR, IOM, ICMPD, the Red Cross, the Norwegian Refugee Council, which was very active in Iran. We went already to a study visit in Islamabad, because you can read a lot of things, but if you're not there, to see at least have it. And I will go in June to a conference in Iran, which is quite interesting because it's very, until now, very closed countries, as you know. And there are negotiations still going on the nuclear part. So what we try to find out is what could we do in capacity building and where we have added value. And for us is information provision, so the information given to individuals on procedures and stuff like that, and vulnerabilities. I mentioned that earlier. We have all kinds of tools and stuff like that. We also decided we won't do it on our own, but we will go through partner. UNHCR, IOM, we start with ICMPD in Vienna, and make use of existing frameworks where there's already a group of countries, for instance, we have Budapest process, Prague process, and the regional Team Europe initiatives, of course, of the Commission. So we're going to link up to that. And last point, if member states want to, and when it's deemed appropriate, and at the moment it's not appropriate because both Pakistan and Iran are quite reluctant to talk about the subject because of alleged coup factor implications, we are ready to explore options to support the scaling up of resettlement. We have a resettlement support facility in Turkey already for some years, where we bring, we give the services that member states need who do a mission to to get to invite refugees. And actually we already see little by little that it's not only Syrians, but it's more and more also Afghans who are resettled for there. I mean, it's little numbers wise, of course, but we think that if we as Europe would show that we do resettlement for that reason, it is also a commitment and goodwill to the countries who have been doing that for decades. But at least we show that yes, we can do something as well. I'll stop here then.
Thanks a lot. I will keep you there a couple of more minutes if you don't mind, because I'd like to open the floor for questions. Are there any questions? So maybe we can start. Can you speak a bit louder, or I'll give you the microphone?
No, it's okay.
Okay, perfect. Can you introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Sorel. I'm from the European Parliament. Thank you very much for your presentation. It was really insightful. So I have two questions. The first one is there has been a lot of criticism towards some of the reception centers in the EU and the living conditions of the people in these centers. What can you tell us about that, and how is the EUAA planning to address these concerns, and so what are your future plans in this regard? And my second question is another known problem is the variation in the commission rates of applications launched by refugees from the same country of origin. So an Afghan that applies for international protection in France may not receive the same answer to his application as someone, say, an Afghan refugee in Germany. So how can we explain this, and what is your agency going to do to help member states to have a streamlined position in these applications? Thank you.
I gave the answer in the speech on the second part, so I'm not going to repeat that again. Of course, the recognition rates are different, you know, especially Afghanistan. It was 0 in member state X and it was 99% in member states Z. Yeah. And what I said was that we are working towards more convergence. Member states don't just give you that power, so okay, from now on, so in the new regulation is now, and we are very happy with that, and you see also more and more judges in different member states citing our guidance, and the guidance from now on needs to be taken into account. If they don't do it, it's like inadmissible for the state, not for the individual. But it will be something which is going to take a long time, because member states are a history. I mean, from my country, there was a migration part in the Ministry of Justice since 1898. But there was no Geneva Convention. There was, it was all organized differently, and that is, directives are different because it's different from a regulation. Regulation is actually different. The directive can be implemented by member states how they see fit, how it fits in their administrative procedure. So, start the negotiations on the pact, or make sure that the Council joins the Parliament in the negotiations. And reception centres, I don't think that's Afghan related, so I'm not going into that question. But that's like, when I sometimes go to Parliament on a certain subject, Parliament has this tendency of them asking, more sexy questions which are in the news. And I've done it more than enough working for me, so I'm not going to do that. Other questions?
Any other questions? First, so please.
Hi, my name is Ari Perez. I'm a guest student. You mentioned that the 20% of the applications are repeat applications, especially for the Afghan refugees. And I was wondering, of course, beyond the obvious reasons, why would any refugee reapply for their case? Why is it the case if it is the highest acceptance rate, especially among Afghan refugees, why is it the case that it is the highest reapplication rate? I mean, I'm familiar with the fact that
that's not what I said, but I mean,
okay.
why the repeat applications? It's usually, I mean, the definition, I have the definition somewhere. The repeat application is lodged in the same country after a previous application was closed with a final negative decision. And then an individual might come with new facts, the lawyer might come with new circumstances. There's a change in the country of origin. They were just, rejected, and then, what happens in Afghanistan. It's quite obvious. So yes, it is. I didn't say because I don't know that actually. It's actually quite low, I think. Applications. If you think of the changes that have happened since August, you would have expected much more. I don't know whether that answers your question.
The reason why I asked this is because, I've heard also like specifically in certain countries that transparency is an issue, and I was wondering if, that plays a role, or if there's a specific attitude towards the Afghan refugees, or if there's anything that is concerned. Okay.
No, what we do for Afghanistan, we do for all other nationalities. So there's no deceit. But Afghanistan has been on our radar from the start of the first country of origin information, the reports like this. The whole public on the website was on Afghanistan. The first country guidance was on Afghanistan because it's been a part of an issue. Of course, in Afghanistan, but also related to asylum in the EU member states. And yes, some countries they have these nice pictures where you can actually see the differences between our own mentioned names. But there were countries where it was only 5%. And if somebody knows that you can get another country 90%, what will they do? They secondary move. And it's not even not understandable, because it actually is understandable. So that's why we want to bring it much more closer together. But it's a long process of pushing, and not all member states are willing to embrace whatever we produce from the start, although they all work on it, and we don't make anything which is not part and parcel of negotiations with member states.
I think we can get one more question. I think you will first.
My name is Vrije Universiteit. I work for ICRE. I wanted to have a question about the support platform you talked about. You said you had a meeting last month. In terms of the timeline for meeting, is there any specific time when the platform meets?
You mean the actual platform, right?
Yeah, the one, and the main topics that you discussed.
Well, actually, we had a discussion, because he knew it was the 28th, because I thought it was today. The 28th is the next platform. And actually, we're quite proud of it, because it's not just the EU member states, it's the US, it's Canada, it's Australia, it's the big players on refugee, it's all the international organizations, it's we have special dedicated meetings with civil society. The next meeting is on integration, which is not unrelated, partly for integration is not unrelated, but it's very important to talk about integration. So we talk about it, and we hope to COVID permits to have the first real meeting, face-to-face in June of the platform. And don't ask me guys, the 28th is and the topics are always sort of made available 3 or 4 months in advance. So there's a document on all the planned subjects from April to June for sure. I will bring it with me. So
Thank you very much
You're welcome.
for your talk and answers.